This is a Dreamcast disc and is for use only on a Dreamcast unit. Playing this disc on a hi-fi or other audio equipment can cause serious damage to its speakers.
Dreamcast, up to 6 billion players.
Welcome back to the stage of history.
Why don't we play together?
Hey, it's time to make some crazy money. Are you ready? Here we go!
Please stop this disc now.
Hello and welcome to episode 24 of the Dreamcast Junkyard DreamPod. My name is Tom and today we have a special guest I will come to in a second, but I'm joined by my usual co-hosts. I'm joined by, for the first time in 2016, we've got Rob.
Hello.
Hi Rob, Happy New Year. I know it's a bit late, but I've not spoken to you since New Year, so...
No, Happy New Year to you too, Tom.
Welcome to the future. And all the way from upstate New York, we have Caleb.
Hello.
Hello. I've already spoken to you, but I'll say it again. Happy 2016.
Thank you, Tom. I hope your 2016 is going well.
Guys, we have a special guest today, a very, very special guest. His name is Luke. Not that Luke, the other Luke. It's Luke Benstead. He is a man who is known on the internet as Luke. Is it Kazad or Kazade?
It's Kazade. It's just like a really bad kind of Lucasade pun.
Ah, see, that's all clear now.
No one knows that. Like, literally the entire internet has never known that until just now.
Well, it's an exclusive, a world exclusive.
Exclusive.
For those people listening to the DreamPod now, Luke is, I'd like to say, an expert when it comes to programming. You are a programmer, aren't you?
Yeah. I wouldn't be very good at making things like this if I wasn't.
Well, just to fill people in who may be listening, the reason Luke is actually on the podcast is because he is the mastermind behind a very interesting and exciting project called DreamPi, which is a project which is enabling the Dreamcast to get back online without the use of a broadband adapter, using a bespoke piece of software that Luke has written, and also a piece of hardware that is a DreamPi, modified slightly, if that's the right way of putting it.
You said DreamPi, you probably mean Raspberry Pi, right?
That's it, yeah, sorry, I'm glad you're here to correct me. That's exactly what I meant, yeah. We will come back and speak to Luke about this in depth for the main portion of the episode, because that's really why Luke's on, because this is quite a big deal as far as I'm concerned anyway, and quite a few other people as well. But I think before we go into that, we'll go around the table, as it were, and just do what we usually do and have a bit of a roundup of, you know, if we've made any purchases, we've played any games, Dreamcast or otherwise. And Rob, you've not been on the podcast since 2015, which is long ago now, in the mists of time. So I'd really just like to know what you did over Christmas, and if you've been playing anything, if you bought anything. Go for it.
Cool, yeah. Let's just stick with the Dreamcast. Let's start 2016. Because I think I talk far too much about non-Dreamcast related material on this pod, and it's called the DreamPod. So the one major purchase over Christmas is that I finally got my hands on a fanless Dreamcast. So I've got a fully boxed one with all the stuff that you would get with a new console, and it's in pretty damn good condition. So I'm really chuffed about that. It's one of those things again where I don't have it in my hands in my house at the moment, but it's on its way. So
you sent me some pictures of it the other day, and for all intents and purposes, it just looks like a standard Dreamcast. I mean, I'm really intrigued by the fanless Dreamcast because I don't really know, how does the cooling work? I mean, I would assume that they all need a fan. To my mind, it doesn't really make much sense. Even the story behind you getting this machine is quite interesting. If you're allowed to say, like, sort of, obviously don't name the guy, but if you can explain who the guy is that you got it off, that'd be pretty cool as well.
Sure, yeah, I'll talk it through pretty quickly. About a year and a half ago, I got in touch with a chap who lives in Rome, Italy, on the Assembler Games forums. I was looking for a chipped PS2, and despite my memory of being younger, and you know, literally you could get them everywhere. Anyone can chip you a PS2, and yeah. I just couldn't find one for months and months and months. I couldn't find anyone who'd do it for me, so I went on the Assembler Games forum and said I really need a chipped PS2. And anyway, long story short, and I will name him because he's a great guy. He's called Marco. And he got in touch and said, yeah, I can do that for you. Not a problem. So anyway, I got a PS2, but kind of stayed in touch with him on social media, mainly because, one, he's a really great guy, and two, he's one of the biggest collectors of video game hardware and arcade hardware in Europe. I'm not exaggerating here. This guy is a legend, and like one of the things he does is he collects old arcade cabinets and then does them up. Anyway, yeah, so he's a fabulous guy, and he's the reason why he can supply, or he's got such a great collection, is that he makes frequent trips to Japan, and while he's there in Japan, you know what it's like, you've heard the stories, he just buys up loads of cool stuff that he likes, that he thinks really cool, and brings them back, and and luckily he got back in touch with me around Christmas and said, hey Rob, you mentioned to me like a year ago that you were looking for a fanless Dreamcast. Well, I've got a couple in, and if you want one, let me know. And by the time I got back to him, one had already been sold. Yeah. But luckily, I got the second one. So yeah,
that's really cool. I mean, to be honest, if that was mine, I wouldn't be able to resist like opening it up and having a look at how it kind of works inside.
I can't say that I'm an expert at all. It's not. Yeah, I keep saying fanless. That's how I've ended up referring to this system, because people say that it's a water-cooled system or a liquid-cooled system, and I don't think that's true, actually. I think it's just heat diffusion pipes that they may be filled with gas, they may be solid, I don't know.
Generally speaking, water-cooled stuff has to be like, you have to replace the water and whatnot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, you have like dedicated, like, they call it water-cooled, but it's not actually water, is it, in the pipes? It's some sort of composite liquid. And as you say, Caleb, you've got to keep replacing it. So I doubt...
I've always shied away from that. I've built my own computers and whatnot, but, I just do the thing where like there's a million fans and I hope for the best. I never do any of the more intricate cooling systems. The only reason I bring that up is because I was listening to the Best Friends Friendscast, their podcast, and Wooly was talking about how something went wrong with his coolant system, and somehow he didn't you actually have to top off the liquid, and you have to actually do maintenance on it and whatnot instead of just kind of just leaving it there until.
Yeah,
I'm quite into my Macs, and I was looking at getting an older G5, and I heard that the first model of the G5 Power Mac has got this cooling system where the pipes can leak and this liquid can come out and go all over the main board and all that kind of thing. So yeah, I'd be really when you get it, I'd be very interested to know kind of if you can sort of have a look and see how it works. That'd be really interesting. Yeah,
I'll definitely take the top off and get some pictures on the site. So yeah,
excellent. Apart from that, have you made any gaming purchases, or have you played anything? Or?
Yeah, I've just made a couple more Neo Geo Pocket Color purchases. You probably don't want to hear about those.
Yeah, go for it. I'm quite into the Neo Geo these days myself, as you well know.
I got a Japanese copy of Samurai Showdown, which somehow had completely escaped the collection. It's one of those things where that's one of the games quite hideously expensive if you buy the English version, but if you buy the Japanese version, it's a fraction of the price. So I picked that up. I got a couple of sort of arcadey games, like gambling games. Neo Cherry Master is one of them. Yeah, but they're not really much to write home about. So yeah. I'm also at the moment bidding on a Hanshin Tigers Neo Geo Pocket Color, which is quite fabulous, really, because just imagine Neo Geo Pocket Color, but then with tiger stripes. So it's yellow with black stripes all over it, and it looks really cool.
Sounds pretty sexy, that, Rob, to be honest, I must say.
I tell you what, it turns me on. Anyway, enough about the Pocket Color. Let's move on quickly.
Let's move on. Caleb, yourself, Hills, what have you been doing?
Well, I have been just crying because all my eBay auctions, I've been outbid, and I've not been able to find anything. When it comes to purchasing Dreamcast stuff, it's always very much, there's nothing in this area. I go to all the thrift shops and whatnot, and unfortunately for this area of New York, it's just nobody bought the Dreamcast stuff, so there's literally never anything around.
Yeah.
I see the systems every once in a while, but I never see any games or anything like that. So yeah, no, I've just been messing around with some fighting games like SNK versus Capcom, Capcom versus SNK2.
Nice.
And I've been mainly doing that because I've been trying to get my the one Dreamcast arcade stick to be cleaned out, and I'm still trying to figure out how to do that correctly without messing it up. I've done custom stuff with Xbox ones before, but that's the specifically the ones that are easy to take apart and whatnot. So these ones are not, and I'm not sure if like there's actually something, if a person like previously like super glued it back together maybe or whatnot, because I remember with the auction, the other one, like they did this weird like quote unquote mod where they taped, there was a third party arcade stick where the person that sold it to me like taped the sensors a little bit, so it would I wasn't ever quite sure why they did that, because it seemed like it might have just I don't know. Anyways, so I don't know if this person like modded this before and that's why it's so hard to get this thing open or whatnot. So yeah, I've been messing around with that, and I've also been messing around with the At Games portable Sega Genesis.
Is that the one with the screen on it?
Yeah, it's the one with the nice screen and the terrible sound. Yeah. As everybody who's talked about it and reviewed it has noted. It's an interesting little setup. It played pretty much 90% of the games that I put on it.
Have you got the one with the SD card slot?
Yes, I did. The first SD card that I tried on it worked perfectly, and like 90% of the games worked. This screen is nice enough where it actually it didn't really matter what type of game I put in there. It still looked and played okay. The only drawback is that I wouldn't pay the prices that they're asking for online. I actually missed out because the place around here that was mainly stocking it was actually a pharmacy, and it was a Christmas item. So it literally everything went on 75% off. So I could have got it for like $10 American or something like that, and I missed out on it. So
that's a shame.
Oh yeah, I finally am trying out Saints Row 4, but man, a lot of filler in that game. Doesn't seem to go quite as quickly as some of the older ones.
I think 3 is the best, isn't it? Saints Row.
Oh yeah, seriously, 3's the best, I think. Well, actually, it's a tie between 2 and 3. They're both equally fun.
I saw a trailer for that Gat Out of Hell the other day, and I just thought that looks ridiculous. On a slightly different note, I watched Kung Fury for the first time. If you're listening to this and you've never seen Kung Fury, go on YouTube and watch it because it's amazing.
Yeah, it's also on Netflix and also a bunch of other places too.
Yeah. David Hasselhoff was on TV this morning talking about it, and I just thought, this is bizarre. I mean, I only learned about the thing last week, and now I'm watching David Hasselhoff on Saturday Kitchen or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Cheers, Caleb. Let's go to our esteemed guest, Luke. And I mean, do you play on your Dreamcast regularly? I know you do a lot of technique.
I don't play as much as I would like to. I mean, the time that I do get, I do tend to just kind of fiddle with things and stuff. I mean, I bought some games recently. I bought F355 Challenge.
Yeah.
Just because it had an online component and I wanted to see how that worked. I haven't really looked at it. I had one quick go, but I was useless, so I took it out.
I think I'm pretty useless at it as well. The interesting thing about that game is it's only one of 2 games that use the link cable, if I'm not mistaken. That and Virtual On are the only 2 that used it.
Yeah, I was looking at that. They're really, really hard to come by, aren't they?
Yeah. I was like an idiot. I thought it's like, oh well, these must be cheap because, but no, they're very, very expensive.
It's odd because they can't be that complicated, and there's like some like where it's out of stock. If you look online, it says it's like £25 or something for something that was once in stock. But for a cable, that's quite a lot of money. The other thing I bought is Planet Ring. I haven't tried that yet. I'm just kind of trying to get all of the online things so I can test stuff.
I was just about to say that you can't actually play it because it's not online anymore, but you are the man when it comes to online, so we'll come back to that one in a bit.
Yeah,
that's quite interesting.
We'll see where that goes. I also got a dial-up PAL modem. I don't know why. I just saw it on eBay and I was just like, it's only £3, and I just put in a bid, and then a week later I got an email saying I won it. So I don't know, I might take it apart or do something with it.
Was that a Dreamcast modem?
Yeah, just a Dreamcast dial-up one, normal one.
I was quite surprised at how little it actually is inside one of those. When I was doing all the whitening of Dreamcast a few months ago, I took apart the modems as well just to get all the plastic all whitened up, and it's literally just like one circuit board inside.
I mean, they're not that complicated. I didn't know anything about modem 6 months ago, but
Right.
they're not that complicated. The complicated bit is like dealing with like the high voltage from like a phone line and stuff. But there's not really anything massively complicated in there. The only other thing I got is I got Buzz Lightyear of Star Command for Christmas,
Nice.
which was surprisingly good fun. Like the first level, I played through the first level and it was quite good. The camera was awful, but
Is that the one where you kind of run forward?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same. I mean, I assumed it would be like complete like shovelware when I first played it, and it's quite good because it also introduced me to the fact that there was like a cartoon series which I didn't have any idea existed. And then when you've got all these clips of the cartoon, I was like, this is quite sort of high production values for a game that is actually just like a kid's game. But then I did a little bit more research into it and found out that there was actually this TV series which I had no idea about previously.
Yeah, and they had the game starts with the intro from the series, like when you put the disc in. Not to be by surprise, because I do remember some of the episodes from that when it was broadcast. But yeah, that's been my list of things that I bought recently. I tried to stay off of eBay because it's just bad news.
It's terrible, isn't it? You see something and you just got. It's like you know on YouTube where you're like, how did I end up at this video? It's like eBay is the same. I end up looking at Sega Saturn games, and I'm on like VHS machines, and then I'm on Laserdisc machines. I'm like, where's it end? You know, I'll put a quick bid in.
And how many times then does it take you to get to the Jaguar?
Oh yeah.
Mate, that's on my first page. You know, when you load it up, it's like saved searches. Like, what am I doing with my life?
I was trying to find a Laserdisc in the thrift shops for the longest time. And like I finally found one, and they put a freaking ridiculously high price on it. And I'm like, guys, what are you doing? I'm
still going into the charity shops and looking for a new one, like because I secretly hope that one day I'll find one in amongst all the old DVD players and VHS machines. But
oh yeah, no, that's what I did, and I did eventually find one. But somebody, this was a real resale shop for the local area where they help take care of like dogs and cats and whatnot. Yeah, it's basically just an animal shelter type stuff. And so yeah, somebody said with the laser discs, and they put some ridiculously high price on it. And it's like, wow, guys, I would have paid you $20. And like I don't think anybody else is willing to pay you $20 for this thing, man. Come on.
Luke, have you been playing anything on current gen?
No. To be honest, I haven't played any current gen since I started fiddling with the DreamPi stuff. Just kind of took out my time.
Yeah.
So, no.
Okay, cool. I'll quickly run down what I've been doing. I've made a few purchases, but it's only because stuff's been so cheap, and I've just come across it, and I thought, yeah, I'll grab that. So just after the last episode that we recorded, I picked up ISS 2000 for the N64,
cool.
Which is quite it's an uncommon one. I saw it was car only. There's a little retro game shop in Southampton where I live, and I went in there and I was just chatting to the guy, and I spotted it under the counter, so I picked that up. It was only £5. I also got a game called Jellicoe Rally Big Run for the Super Famicom, because I've got the Retron and I can obviously play import games on it, and I've not really got any other Japanese games apart from the one my mate Martin gave me. So I've been looking on eBay, and that came up for like £3, so I took a gamble on it. I'd heard it was pretty poor, and it's actually quite good, to be honest. I quite like it. It's a bit like Outrun, but you're kind of you're doing like the Paris to Dakar rally.
Yeah.
In a sort of outrun kind of way. It's quite cool.
Just on that, I was wondering, how are you getting on with the Retron 5 now? You've had some prolonged usage with it?
I think it's a really good system, to be honest. Everything I throw at it works. What can I say?
What can
great,
you say?
yeah.
Okay, super.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, me and my girlfriend played Streets of Rage 2 on it the other day, and usually I wouldn't have taken it down to the living room where we've got the big TV, because, you know, I wouldn't want to put a Mega Drive on that big screen, because it just looks horrendous. But with the HDMI out, it just looks great, to be honest. So yeah, it's really good.
Awesome. Continue.
Thank you. I picked up Tokyo Race Driver 3 for the original Xbox for £1, and that's a great game. Been playing through that. And on Friday just gone, I went into CEX on the way home from work and got Halo Anniversary for the Xbox 360 for £5. And again, been playing through that. I love Halo. I've said it many, many times before.
Wait a minute. Anniversary, I'm not familiar with this. Is this a remake of the original Halo, or is it multiple games?
Literally just like the original Halo, and you can switch on the fly between the original version and the new kind of remastered with new graphics and things.
No, I remember one of those re-releases, like it just didn't work properly for like a really long time.
I think that was the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox One.
Yeah. That was the big one.
I mean, let's not talk about it too much, but yeah, obviously the original Halo was top fun.
I think was that the last like big game where like you would have like, 6 people in the same house and you would have hooked up like multiple TVs and stuff? Do you think that was the last
I'm not entirely
one?
sure. I mean, I know at these events we go to occasionally, like sort of the Play Expo events, they always have networked Xboxes, like Xbox Originals playing like Halo or 360s playing like Halo 3 or whatever. And that's quite cool. But as far as numbers of people to play in a networked environment, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
Yeah, because I think I really think Halo was like the last game where it's like it was mainstream to have like just a bunch of people in the same house on different TVs and whatnot.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing, really. The only game I've really played on the Dreamcast has been Aqua GT. I don't know if you saw, I did a quick look at on the Dreamcast Junkyard main site this last week. It's one of those games that's really expensive on eBay, and I really can't understand why. I know it's a PAL exclusive, but it's crap. So, for want of a better term. So, yeah, I just decided that it was about time that somebody kind of dispelled all the myths about... The thing is that there's a lot of games on the Dreamcast that don't have a lot of documentation about them. Certainly not from a modern point of view. You can look on Google for any game, but a lot of the reviews are from like way back when on like Planet Dreamcast or IGN or whatever. There's no real documentation from like 2016 about a lot of these games, so I'm looking back at them with a modern eye.
It's interesting you say that because recently, do you know how we're always talking about there's a difference between things being expensive and rare, and they're not tied together. Something can be incredibly expensive but actually not very rare.
Yeah.
I think I'm seeing extra categories now. I'm not just talking about Dreamcast here, but what you just said, games that weren't very well covered, typically because they came from very small studios with very poor advertising budgets, in terms of getting the message out there for their small game. Those are going for quite a lot of money as well, because it's literally that mystery factor. There's so little information about them that people go, like...
What it is, Rob, I think, is that when after the Dreamcast came out, certainly in the UK, after about the 4th or 5th month of the system being available, there was like a massive glut of games that came out. And a lot of them kind of fell by the wayside. You had things like Super Magnetic Neo, again, Aqua GT, Surf Rocket Racer. These games, they all came out at the same time as other big releases, and they kind of fell by the wayside. And like I said, there's not a lot of documentation about them online. And also, again, with a modern head-on, to actually look at how...
The current secondary market, too, I mean, I think it's just influenced by a lot of stuff. But, like, for example, when the nerd did his video... When the angry video game nerd did his video on the Seaman game, I know that went up in price a little bit too. There's a lot of factors now why this whole secondary market is like so weird. A game is either worth over $20 or it's worth literally pennies, nothing. It's really weird.
That's what we've been doing. That's what we've been playing. And I think it's about time we came on to the main meat of this particular episode, and the reason for our good friend Luke being on the episode. And that is because he is a man who knows his way around a Dreamcast and also around a Raspberry Pi, and has created this rather ingenious contraption called a DreamPi. Not only that, but the soon-to-be-released software known as Dreamcast Now, which, for all intents and purposes, looks or aims to be a kind of... Would it be right in saying it's kind of like an Xbox Live kind of thing for the Dreamcast?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not as full-featured as Xbox Live, but it's going to kind of show when people are online and what games they're playing, which is already, I've only got 2 people testing it, but it's already really cool, seeing, PC Wizard 13 is playing Star Lancer. Do you know what I mean? And I'm hoping that when I roll it out, when this podcast goes out,
cool,
it'll be online.
Fantastic.
I'm hoping that people will play more games online because they'll be able to just quickly see, somebody's playing online, I'll go play online. Yeah. So yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Okay, I mean, what we aim to do here is kind of basically give this information to the Dreamcast community, and for those people who are maybe probably a bit like me, a bit of a layman when it comes to like the online kind of thing, we'll go right back to the beginning and talk a little bit about your history with the Dreamcast and how you got into like programming these kind of weird and wonderful software packages for the Dreamcast. Before we do that, though, I mean, I'd just like to ask what other people's, Rob and Caleb, what your experience is with the Dreamcast online. When the Dreamcast was contemporary, I had my bedroom was on the top floor of the house. We lived in a three-story house. So I had this cable running all the way down the stairs to the phone point near the front door. And literally all I could really do with it was browse the internet. And obviously because like I wasn't in charge of the phone bill or anything like that, it was literally limited to about, an hour, a week where I could like go online. And I can't even remember really what I looked for because there was not really that much online then. As far as I would, you can say, you're probably looking at porn. Well, no, I wasn't really. I was,
Oh, wow! You read my mind. I was gonna.
We were all thinking that.
I was Tom. I was literally considering putting on a really bad accent and pretending to be your parents, saying, "Now, don't you go looking at those bad sites."
I really wasn't. I was looking at I was on Dream Arena looking at reviews. Where it would take about 10 minutes for the next page to load up with that stupid noise, that. When you're like clicking through things. So yeah, I mean, my experience of like online with the Dreamcast is pretty limited. It's limited really to browsing, and I never really played at all online games with other people because I just couldn't. I don't know about you guys. What's your experience? I know you came quite late to the Dreamcast, Caleb, after it probably shut down.
I never had any experience really with the Dreamcast when it was still online, the SegaNet and all that whatnot. In the US, I actually got mine at the very last bit of the cycle. I bought my Dreamcast from somebody who was upgrading to an Xbox. And so they sold me their old Dreamcast system that, I had spent hours with them playing in the college dorms, playing Soul Calibur and whatnot. I bought it. And I never had a chance, really. I had a computer at that time. Yeah. This was late in the Dreamcast cycle. This would have been 2002, 2003. And Dreamcast is pretty much already kind of done. And so I never connected it. And then afterwards, I did the whole thing like everybody did. We all read the articles on how to connect it using your computer. And it was so complicated to set it up that I just never did it. Because it was just like, I would love to do this, but I can't justify the time it would take to do, the whole thing it was before. Because that was the system where you plugged your phone modem into your computer, and then your computer's Ethernet modem, and all this other stuff. And it's like, I don't want to do that.
What about you, Rob?
Yeah, I think I've mentioned it before. Kind of very similar to you, Tom. Like, I made that joke about the crumbling copper wires. The Victorian infrastructure in the UK, which was still kicking round, and yeah, very limited. Bit of internet browsing. The major game that I have good memories of is Quake 3 Arena, but the problem with Quake 3, I'd come from I'm into my PC, and I certainly was around that time very much so, and it was just the experience obviously wasn't as good as on the PC with mouse and keyboard. So yeah, very limited actually during the day. I can remember seeing Phantasy Star Online being played. I forget where, but yeah, not really much else.
Yeah, and I mean, Luke, what's your history with the Dreamcast? Were you there from day one, or have you come to it later on, or what?
I was always a Sega fanboy, like really badly, and I had like a Master System, and then a Mega Drive, then a Saturn, and then I was following, reading the Dreamcast magazine and stuff, and I think maybe the Saturn magazine was like talking about the Dreamcast before it came out. But on day one, I was in HMV playing like some game or other, but I couldn't actually afford to get one until I think the following Christmas. So it came out in, October 99 in the UK? Is that when it came out? It wasn't that Christmas, it was the following one. So I had like a year of just generally pacing around waiting to play these games and just camping out in HMV. But
yeah, it's funny actually. You mentioned HMV. When I used to go to college in Manchester, we used to go at dinner time or lunchtime, as you call it in the south. We used to go to HMV in Manchester City Centre and play on Virtua Striker 2. A big group of us. Sorry, it just came back to me then. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, no, I remember playing Incoming and Ready to Rumble Boxing and stuff. like in the shop. But yeah, I didn't really play online. I just mainly because I was worried about phone bills and whether my dad would kill me. So I think I played one game of Phantasy Star Online once, and that is all I did because of that. I was terrified of that. As for the recent kind of stuff, I'd always wanted seen online, like this PC-DC server thing. Yeah. I think that's what Caleb was referring to. And I was like, one day I'll do that. And then I didn't. And then I bought a Raspberry Pi, and I was like, I could use this. And then I didn't do anything. And then I bought a modem, and then I didn't do anything. And all this stuff was sat in a drawer for like 3 years. And then earlier this year, I just was like, okay, I'm finally going to do this. And I was following the article, like the tutorials and how to set it up. And I was like, what, you still have to answer? Like, you dial on the Dreamcast and you have to time it right to answer it on the other end. Like, it wasn't like an automated thing. And I was just like, I can fix this. This is something I can fix.
But before we get into that, what's your background with like programming? I mean, you're a programmer professionally.
Yeah, I spend way too much of my life programming things. So I started programming about the same time the Dreamcast came out. Actually,
yeah, you got a lot of experience then. Yeah,
a long time ago. Yeah, I always wanted to make games, but I never actually did, or I never actually finished them. And I've just been programming literally full time, except for when I went to uni. Then it was mainly drinking.
I can identify with that, definitely, yeah.
I got a proper job doing programming, and I've been doing that ever since. Yeah, I do a lot of that.
So, for those people who maybe don't know, I mean, because I've been, at work, I've been going, I'm going to get a Raspberry Pi, and everyone's like, what the hell is that? And I've been trying to explain it in the best way that a thick person can. For those people who are listening, Luke, you're probably the best person to explain this. What exactly is a Raspberry Pi?
So, a Raspberry Pi is just like a mini computer, just on a single little circuit board. It has like HDMI output for your TV and monitor or whatever, and it has USB slots and stuff. And the thing that's confuses people is it doesn't run Windows; it runs Linux because it's not an Intel. I think you can run Windows on now. I think Windows has been ported across, but it's more for kind of experimenting, really. And like playing around with electronics, because it's got like pins on it that control like lights or whatever you want to connect.
There's been a big sort of thing where they've been trying to get kids to start using it to like learn programming and things.
Yeah, I think that's the whole aim for the Raspberry Pi is to get kids programming, and it's like the BBC Micro thing from when we were kids.
It's like the modern day version of a BBC Micro.
Yeah, exactly that. And they've got a new one out now that's only £4. They gave it away on a magazine the other day.
What? Pi?
So you can actually buy a magazine.
Yeah.
Buy a magazine with a computer on the front of it.
Sorry, I used to work with the editor of that magazine.
Name dropping.
It's, I'm not going to name drop because you can buy the mag. But yeah, that's a great mag. That was insane, wasn't it? The speed at which that sold, the run of that magazine sold out was just through the roof.
Is that Magpie?
People on Twitter? Yeah,
Magpie. Yeah.
Yeah, people on Twitter were like announcing when they'd found one in W.H. Smith in Euston Station or whatever. Like people would. It was just insane. I never got one until like they restocked like later. But you can't use those ones for the DreamPi, unfortunately, because they don't have any USB. They've only got micro USB slot on it, and it's not enough for the modem. I don't know, maybe in future, maybe they'll sell some adapters or something.
Yeah, so I mean, we've kind of established what the Raspberry Pi is. It's basically a mini computer, isn't it, on a circuit board that you can load OSs onto it with an SD card. Yeah,
exactly that. And I mean, the DreamPi thing is just basically a customized kind of software image, like it's a customized version of Linux that just boots this bit of software that I've written.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick note here. Here in the USA, there's a big thing with the public libraries and makerspaces, where there's been a kind of a push to have stuff like 3D printing and programming be available to like more people. So a lot of the bigger libraries have makerspaces now where people can actually go
into the library and do this kind of thing. Wow.
Yeah, in the library, and one of the big things that a lot of the libraries who have makerspaces have is they have Raspberry Pis. So if anybody's interested, you should check your local library and see if anybody in the area has a makerspace around where you can go in and mess around and just see what a Raspberry Pi is and whatnot.
That's really cool. I wish there's something like that in the UK. That'd be amazing. However, going back to the Raspberry Pi and DreamPi, essentially, Luke, in a nutshell, what is DreamPi and what can you do with it?
So it's kind of basically like an enhanced version of that DC PC server thing.
Right.
So you connect your Dreamcast to like get a phone cable, connect one into the Dreamcast, one into like a USB dial-up modem, which are really, really cheap on eBay, like £7 or something. And then you plug the USB modem into the Raspberry Pi, and then you plug your Ethernet cable into the Raspberry Pi. So you create this chained connection out to the internet. Yeah, and so the DreamPi is just basically, because the Raspberry Pi boots from an SD card, the DreamPi is just basically a software, like an image that you can write to the SD card, and then you can turn it on and treat it like it's just an appliance, like just a box that does magic. And yeah, I mean, my aim is to make it as easy as possible for people to get online.
So essentially what the DreamPi is doing is basically enabling the Dreamcast in 2016 to go back online without a broadband adapter?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it does a few things that the DC PC server didn't. I mean, the first one is that it answers the dialing of the Dreamcast. So when you dial on the game, it hears those tones. That, you know, when you press the phone keys, the tones you hear on the phone, it hears that, and then it knows that it should be doing something. Before, you had to literally dial the Dreamcast game and then go to your PC and answer, like, manually. So that's the first thing the DreamPi does, is listen. And the other thing that I added, which is what makes it really stand out from everything else, is I made it play the sound of a dial tone down to the Dreamcast, so through the modem and through the cable to the Dreamcast. So it's just literally an audio recording of, like, when you pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And that convinces the Dreamcast to dial out, because some of the games wouldn't dial.
That's such an awesome solution. So literally, it's just an audio file, and then the Dreamcast recognizes that audio file.
Do you know?
Wow, that's amazing.
If you imagine that if you imagine the DreamPi was
Oh my God! This is like the scene from Hackers. Do you recognize Hackers? Angela Jolene. You're oh my God, you are zero cool. You're literally playing you're literally playing a little recording into the phone, and it's like accepting the call. Oh, this is so great. Tom, I can't believe it. I can actually understand this conversation.
Film references, amazing. Yeah, so when you if you imagine that you had a phone in place of the DreamPi, and you literally picked the receiver up and played a tape recording down it, that is all it's doing. And then
Amazing.
And then when the Dreamcast dials the first number, you can hear that. If it's still using the phone analogy, if it was a phone, you'd hear it, and then it just goes, okay, I'll answer it and forward everything to the internet from that point on. And so so it kind of works pretty well. It took a lot of fiddling, but it works. Yeah.
What's the scope for this? I mean, can you browse the internet, or is that a stupid question? I mean, do you?
Yeah. So basically, it's as if it was 2001 again or something. So you can do. You can play all the games that have servers, like unofficial servers, and the DreamPi software has a custom DNS server, so it routes the most popular. It routes to like Slytherin for PSO and the Dreamcast Talk Quake 3 servers and stuff like that by default. So literally, you just put the game in and dial, and it just works. The other thing is the DreamPipe guys are hosting. Yeah. They're hosting like old snapshots of the game websites, so like the Sonic Adventure website or whatever.
Yes, yeah. No, Dan from DreamPipe contacted me last week, and we had a little bit of a dialogue over email, and your partnership with them is really interesting as well, because it's kind of like a central hub again for the Dreamcast community, online. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean the Dreamcast Now stuff kind of came around with from a conversation with Dan, because another thing so there's two games that don't work, that I know that don't work, and one is Toy Racer,
right,
and the other one is the PAL version of Quake 3, because both of those games, they try to authenticate with Dream Arena, which obviously isn't switched on anymore. So I've been trying to reverse engineer that to try and run a new Dream Arena server so that all the games work.
Wow.
I haven't made too much progress. I know a bit, but it's getting there. But so I was talking to him, and he knew I was doing this work, and he said, is it possible that when you do it, can you just integrate with DreamPipe and say when someone's online? And I was like, well, it will only work with 2 games, though. It's not going to work with, like, say, Maximum Pool or something. And so I was just kind of went away and I was in the shower or something. I was like, hang on, I know when people are online, like through the DreamPi stuff, and I know which games they're playing by the domain name DNS queries that the game's making.
Yeah.
So that's where the Dreamcast Now came from. It was just I realised I had this information already. I just needed to put it somewhere.
That was my next question. For those people who are listening who maybe don't know what Dreamcast Now is, now, from my point of view, what this looks like is when you're on it, it's basically just telling you a list of, it's like a friends list of people who are online and what game they're playing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, and if your friends are everyone that owns a Dreamcast and goes online, yeah, that's it. It's so the web address is dreamcast.online/now, which is the best web address I've ever bought. And yeah, if you go there, you can see now whether people are online. I don't know if anyone's online right now, but yeah, we've got a couple of people testing it. I'm sending out a new test thing today, and hopefully by the time this podcast goes out, you can just download the latest version of the DreamPi software, and it will all automatically work. So everyone from version 1.1 of the DreamPi software, everyone that plays a game, it will show whether they're online or not. So that's what Dreamcast Now is.
It's a great service, and it's just a fantastic time to be a Dreamcast owner, I think. I mean, we say this every week on the podcast, but it seems that as we move forward, rather than everything like kind of dwindling and getting less and less, it's like there's more and more stuff coming, and this is just like another amazing development for the Dreamcast that is just kind of sprung up. It's just amazing, and you know, I am personally blown away by the amount of effort and work that you've put in, because as someone who's kind of a bit of a noob, as it were, when it comes to like online stuff, I'm just in awe really of the amount of effort that you've put in, and you know, hats off to you really.
Cheers. I mean, to make it clear, I didn't set out to do this. This was kind of an accident. So I've got a daughter who was born like 7 months ago, and after that I didn't really have much time, but I had little windows that I could do stuff, and like I wanted to just quickly play an online game or something, and it was just a case of me just going, this bit's a little bit awkward, I can probably solve that with a little bit of code.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of snowballed. Then, like, first the dull tone thing came in, and then I just kept finding these little things that didn't quite work, and then I thought about it a bit and then just added a thing. And then Dreamcast Now is just another thing of, wouldn't that be cool? But I'm kind of getting to the point now, though, I think it's kind of finished, in quotes. It works now. There's a few people who have little problems, but the main problem that everyone has is that you need a line voltage on the cable between the Dreamcast and the Raspberry Pi.
Now, is this for everybody, or is this just for like people in the UK, or is it different in the US?
So before I started doing this, it used to be that US modems were okay and PAL modems needed voltage. Or no, not all US modems. I think there's like Model A and Model B, and one of them didn't need a voltage, one of them did. And it only needed 9 volt according to all the tutorials in the world. Which is like a smoke alarm battery attached to the wire, and I couldn't get it working for ages. I mean, I tried everything. I put more batteries on. I did all kinds of different things, and then I realised that actually the PAL modem needs like at least 15 to 16 volts on that line. In your phone line, if you plug like your normal landline phone socket on the wall, I think it's got like 50 volts or something. It's got quite a lot, and so when you're trying to convince the Dreamcast that it's connected to a phone wall socket, you need to supply a certain amount of power to that, and that varies. And some people have said that even the US modems that don't need a voltage, that they actually do. But I also think it depends on which USB modem you have, so at the other end. So I think both, because you're doing one modem to another modem, I think it's possible that either of them could need the voltage, if you know what I mean. And some need more. So I think if you have 2 9-volt batteries connected up, you're generally all right. But it's kind of trial and error a little bit.
So ultimately, if somebody who is listening to this podcast and wants to investigate how to get online with DreamPi, I mean, what would they need? What's the base minimum?
The minimum is they would need Raspberry Pi, SD card, to make that all work. A phone, like a modem cable, a USB modem. I've got like a list on my blog, but a USB modem.
Give the address out.
It's blog.kazade.co.uk, and that's Kazade, and then you'll find it. There's like DreamPi there, and that's where I announce all the releases and stuff as well. So
yeah, I mean, even if you just search DreamPi, it's Dream and then just PI, which is PI, Papa Indigo.
Yeah,
you'll find it. I mean, we've run a few stories on the Dreamcast Junkyard about the DreamPi because I find it fascinating. Even though, as I've said before, I'm a bit thick when it comes to this kind of thing, and I want to give it as much exposure as I can because I just think it's a brilliant project. Luke, we've got a few questions from people on the Facebook group. Are you okay if we just quickly run through them? If you can answer them as best you can, is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Excellent. Okay. Right then, the first one is from Daniel Enck. I hope I'm pronouncing his surname correctly. Will there be a wireless version of DreamPi?
So technically, you can do that now, but the problem with the Wi-Fi thing is that it's not as simple as Ethernet in that it needs like your Wi-Fi password and which network to connect to. So if I'm distributing an image that everyone's got to use, I can't obviously tell what the network is or what the password is. So the only blocker is me trying to think of a way that makes it easy for people to connect to their Wi-Fi. I know that some routers have a button on them that you can press, and then you can press a button on like your phone or whatever, and it will automatically configure. And I need to look at that. So really, you can do it if you have the know-how now. If you know your way around Linux and you know how to fiddle with the configuration to get onto your Wi-Fi thing, you can do that now. But I can't support it because I can't make it just work for everyone. So it will happen. I just need to think about it some more, I think.
People love wireless stuff, huh? Like I never got into that. Everything I just have I have a router and a switcher, and I have everything. I got a million things plugged in there, and it's all wires. It's all wires.
Wireless never works anyway. I keep losing the audio on this just because my Wi-Fi decides that it's going to...
See, people talked about Steam boxes and whatnot. I got a $10 really long HDMI cable, and it's along the floor with the 6 other cables that I have all to my internet devices that are all...
And it works and never fails.
And it works.
A couple of other questions we've got. I will say that if you've asked a question on the Facebook group and we don't read it out, it's probably because Luke's already replied to it, so there's no point reading it out on here. But there's a couple of others. Travis Morton asks, will DreamPi's use affect future independent game development? Like, will there be a viable online play, perhaps even development of a third-party broadband adapter if this proves successful? If that makes sense?
I mean, the code that I've written is open source. Like, it's free for anyone to use however they want to use it. And if somebody did decide to manufacture a box that did all this stuff, they can. Be nice if they send me some money. That'd be great, but they don't have to. And as for the developer stuff, I mean, you could even if some developers got together, they could have some kind of online platform now. If you know what I mean, they could replace Dream Arena with some kind of similar thing to Dreamcast Now, but better integrated. Like they could have achievements or whatever, like you expect with modern games. That's possible. I think it just needs people just to talk to each other and do it. So if anyone's writing a Dreamcast game, yeah, go figure that out. Because assuming that people use the DreamPi to get online, I think you can assume that there is some kind of online presence in the Dreamcast community. And if you're porting your game to the Dreamcast anyway, it's probably worth investing some time in some online features, I think that makes sense.
Ross O'Reilly asks, how about speed, seeing as you're using a standard DC modem? Does that mean the speed is capped at 33k or 56k for the US? Have you tested this against the BBA?
I haven't compared speeds with the BBA because I can't get hold of one. But the 33k and 56k caps are there, except there's not a lot of distance between where it's dialing up to. So it's literally just that cable to the Raspberry Pi. And from that point on, you're in broadband land. So there's not the latency that you would get from like an ISP, for example. You're not dependent on whether other people are dialing in and what the traffic's like or anything. You're literally dialing across a short cable. So you'll probably get the top speeds of those modems. I think. I mean, I haven't found a speed test website that will work on the Dreamcast, but I imagine that you probably will get 33K or 56K, or very close to it.
Is it Ookla, or whatever it's called, won't work on a Dreamcast?
I don't think so.
Ross also asks, what about a Japanese modem? It says that you list PAL and US modems, but
I haven't seen any information on the Japanese one. I'm assuming that they'll work. I think they're similar to the NTSC ones. I think.
Yeah, I think didn't they come out with a 33K and then they got switched to a 56K about halfway through the lifespan?
I think they'll work because I mean, what I've tried to do is make it be as similar to as it was, like as I can. So hopefully they'll work. I heard about one guy that's using a DreamPi to get his old Mac online. Like because he he pointed out that all it is a box that routes the internet from dial-up. So he just connected some other thing that had a dial-up modem to it, and it just works fine. So you can use it for other stuff. So I'd assume it's as convincing to the hardware as it can be, and the Japanese stuff will just work.
That's all it's about. It's kind of like we're just tricking the hardware, aren't we, into working.
I can finally connect my Sega Saturn to the internet again
for Daytona USA. Get in. One other question I wanted to ask. This is a question from me actually. There's a guy he's selling a like an all-in-one box on eBay. What's the story with that? I mean, is he connected with your project at all? Or
not officially, no. I mean, I helped him get his one working, his DreamPi, and then he decided to package up what he'd done. And then I kind of said, it's all open source. I can't tell him he can't use it. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
He does send me occasional donations, which is cool. But he's not like it's not official. It's not like DreamPi rubber stamped. You know what I mean? It's just his little thing. But he's working with the DreamPipe stuff, and he's helped Dan get that DreamPipe stuff up and running a lot better. So yeah, he's cool. But yeah, it's not to do with me. It's not my thing.
Okay, I mean, basically the whole point of this episode was that we wanted to get the message out that DreamPi is a thing. Dreamcast Now is coming very, very soon. Probably be out by the time this podcast goes up. And also really just to give you the shout out really that you deserve for the work that you're doing. So yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to cover or discuss on?
The only thing I will mention is I am working on getting some line voltage cables, making some to sell. They're kind of special, so I've sent some circuit boards off and stuff to get manufactured. I don't know how many. I mean, I have to hand solder them, so I don't know how many I can make. But a lot of people are asking for those, and I see that question a lot. So I am trying, but it's hard. It's
just you. It's a one-man operation, really, isn't it? Well, hopefully with this episode, we can maybe recruit some more people who have got the technical skills and knowledge, and also the time to maybe help if that's needed.
Help is always welcome. Definitely, just get in touch if you want to help out. That'd be great.
One thing I wanted to ask as well is in the future, is there a vision of having like this like kind of all-in-one box that you just kind of plug into your Dreamcast and then you plug the other end into the phone?
It's on my to-do list. I'm trying to do things one step at a time. Like so my next, like, now that Dreamcast Now will be going out like soon, and I think the DreamPi software works well enough. On my to-do list the first thing is to make DNS overridable. So at the moment there's like a hard-coded set of game servers that it connects to, but some people run their own servers, like PSO servers or whatever. So I want them to be able to say add overrides so they can connect to a certain PSO servers. That's the next thing on the list. And then there's the cables. And then once those things are done, I think I will look at building a box that's got all this stuff in, because it's not hard to just box it up and maybe 3D print a nice like DreamPi case for it.
Looks maybe like a little Dreamcast.
The little cool. Dreamcast next to the big one. Yeah, that'd be quite.
And then after this, you're moving on to, is it the Dreamcast VR?
Do you know what? I wouldn't suggest stuff to me. I tend to think about it too much.
Oh, don't say that out loud. You know, it'll be all over Project Dream Facebook. I just wanted to say, Luke, again, thank you very much for coming on and explaining to us what DreamPi is and Dreamcast Now, which again should be out by the time this episode comes out. So, what's the address again?
It's dreamcast.online/now.
And your blog is
blog.kazade.co.uk.
Rob or Caleb, is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
No, I'm good.
I'm very excited about the cable. I mean, it would be very interesting to have that set up.
Guys, I think we've kind of come to the end of the episode. It's been very educational, certainly for me. Anyway, I mean, I've said it probably about 3 times now on this episode, but I'm not the most learned person when it comes to this kind of thing. So it's been very interesting and enlightening. And I just hope that people listening have not had their brains completely like frazzled and fried because they're used to us talking about what we've picked up on eBay and how shit Blue Stinger is. So
if they have, I apologise. I'm sorry.
No, we need this kind of thing because it's like, you know, what is driving the Dreamcast community forward in 2016.
Yeah. Plus, Adam Kohulik basically was talking about why people put games on the Dreamcast. And so it'll be interesting to see if this, if any new games will try to include some sort of online play. Now that this seems to be more of a viable thing, it's very interesting.
It's interesting times again to be a Dreamcast owner and a Dreamcast fan. Right, guys, all it leaves me to do is just to again thank Luke for taking the time to come onto the podcast and again for all his hard work. And I think that will do it for us. So again. You can follow us on Twitter. We're at Sega Junkyard, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/The Dreamcast Junkyard. And again, we also have the main site, which is www.thedreamcastjunkyard.co.uk. We are up for a UK Blog Award, so if you listen to this point in the podcast, go to the Dreamcast Junkyard main site, look on the right-hand side of the screen, you will see UK Blog Awards, click on that, go to the website, leave us a little vote thing, it takes 10 seconds. Likewise, if you're on iTunes, go to iTunes and leave us a nice little review because that obviously helps us get more listeners and more exposure on iTunes. But I'm Tom, that's Rob, and Rob is on Twitter at
Nicholas J.
Caleb is on YouTube at
Blandco, C-O, Blandco.
And Luke, you are on Twitter at
Kazade, Kazade.
One last time, you can give your blog address out again.
blog.kazade.co.uk.
My name is Tom, and I'm on Twitter at TomLeeC. That will do it for this episode. Thanks very much for listening, and goodbye. You guys want to say goodbye as well?
No!
No. Don't make me say goodbye.
Please stop this disc now.